3D Dragon Pendant Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish.
Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to be showing you a dragon pendant that's on a little rock that I have, and it's just, I absolutely love it. It's a very simple little pendant and the tail kind of wraps around the little rock that the pendant is built off of. So I hope you guys like this as much as I do, and don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.
So to start with, I have my pretty little peacock pyrite, and this I got at a cute little shop in the Haight in San Francisco. So I've got that. I just have a couple of these little rocks I decided I'd pick up and use for different things. But I'm going to string some wire. There's a hole in it, so I'm just going to string some wire through it and then twist that a little bit so that I've got the base for my pendant. And then I've got the two tails of the wire. I'm going to create the loop where the chain will go through, and then wrap the other pieces, that end of that side of the wire, and then the other one just around it. This is all going to pretty much get covered up by acrylic, all of that big, because there's that really long gap there between the loop and the rock. So it's okay because that's where your dragon is going to be. So keep in mind that the longer you make that, the bigger your dragon needs to be to cover it. So make it the length that you want your dragon. So then on a nail form backing with black acrylic, I'm going to be sculpting this dragon that I've been talking about. So I've just got sort of the top of where the neck is going to be. I'm not sculpting the head yet, so just go to the end of the neck. The head comes a little bit later. I made this pendant sort of in weird little layers, so they kind of get stacked later on. So continue your little dragon going down and continue the tail. So it's like a very loopy, swirly shape here. So it got the curving neck, and it's kind of like a seahorse. Yeah, it's very, very seahorse-like. It's a seahorse, maybe sea dragon. So I got the neck and then the big belly, and then it curls down into the tail. So after you have all of that down and you got it, let it set for just a second. It doesn't really matter if it's smooth right now or if you can tell that there's all these different beads, because it will be picked up and it will get a lot more layers and more acrylic added to the top of it. This is just the base, the very start of it. So then once you can, and you can pick it up, the tail, since that is sculpted with separate acrylic, and it's not going to be quite as set as the rest of it, but once you can pick it up, it all seems like it's going to kind of keep together. Pick it up and set it so that the body is on that little wire that little wire piece that you have to go underneath it, and then curl the tail around the rock. So I would recommend wearing a glove like I am so that you can really touch your acrylic without getting any of those wonderful monomer chemicals on you before it's set, because you can still play around with the acrylic a lot while it is in that partially set flexible stage, but it is better to have something protecting your skin like a glove, or you can even get those little finger caps. Those will work too. So just make sure that you're not doing that with naked fingers. And so wrap that tail around as much as you can, then flip it over and grab some clear acrylic and just fill in the back of it with clear acrylic. This is going to add strength because this little black piece is very, very, very thin and very kind of like a potato chip. It could just snap. So if you add some more acrylic to the back of it just to strengthen it, as well as that's really going to attach it to the wire. The wire is just a base. You just need to make sure that you get that nice and strong. So then with some more of the black acrylic, you're going to set down another little bead and you're going to sculpt the end of the tail. So the tail wasn't quite as long as I wanted, so I added a little bit more of the length, and then I'm going to take and make a little triangle for the very end of it. So yes, like I said, this is made in all kinds of different pieces. You don't really know for sure how long you want your tail to be until it's wrapped around the rock, how far it's going to go around. And so if you need to add a little lengthener like I am, that's fine. And I would recommend adding that little triangle piece later, just because you don't really have too much time to work with it and to play around with it while it's in that first stage with that one big piece that you picked up and set on there, because if you wait too long, it's not going to conform to the shape of the rock right, because it'll get too thick. So after you have that little tail extender attached to the rest of it, just start, and I added a little bit more to the belly, where I don't know why I did that now. You can do it later at any point. But then I'm going to be making the two wings. All of this is done with black acrylic. I added the color later on with some duochrome powder. So there's the first wing. Just kind of carry around. The fun thing with making something that's in the mystical, magical realm is that you can really have as much creative freedom as you'd like. You can make your dragon whatever color you want. You can make it look scary or pretty or elegant or more like a fairy. You can do it. I mean, it's, there's no rules here at all. So you can just play around with it. I wanted mine to look a little bit more in the creepy range, just because that's my style. But yeah, you can do whatever you want. So there's the two wings. And so after you have your 2 wings made, and they are about the same size, you can make sure that they do fit as big as the right size for your dragon. And then you're going to attach them to the other side of the wire. So you have the wire is going to act as a little spacer, which is going to make your 3D look even more 3D without having to fill in all of that with acrylic, because it's going to leave a little gap and a little space between the body that you see in the front and then in the back all the way is where the wings show up. So I really love the way that turned out, the way that little spacer worked in there, and it makes it so that the whole thing has a lot of stability, and all the acrylic pieces attach really well to the wire. So lay down that little bit of clear acrylic, set your dragon in there, make sure it's in the right spot. After that has set and you can pick it up, same thing, you're going to want to fill in the wings on the back side with a lot more clear acrylic. As you can see, they are pretty much almost all the way set, but just because they're so thin, they really are still kind of bendy and flexible, and in a couple minutes, if you tried to bend them, they would just snap into a bunch of pieces. So make sure that you do add that extra bit of acrylic on there so they are very strong and not going to break the first time you wear your necklace. Then with some more acrylic, we're going to be adding all of the details, all the 3D details to the wings. So they have that thicker bony part, the part that you would think of as the arm. So like the humerus and the radial and the ulna and all of those wonderful arm bones. So just continue those down and then add the other little one going down. So you got the one thicker stripe of acrylic going up or along that upper line of the wing, and then one from the middle point going down to that little section, that little point on the bottom. So you're connecting the elbow to that little finger point going down below. Then do the same thing on the other side. When you're doing these little skinny lines, make sure that your acrylic is thin enough that it isn't going to kind of crack. It'll pull really nicely if it's a little bit thinner than you would normally want to use, and it will create these skinny little lines really easy. So just kind of keep that in mind I know a lot of people ask, how do you ask about ratio, what ratio monomer acrylic do I use? It depends on what I'm doing, and I don't always use the same, and usually within one project I switch it up and do whatever feels right at the moment, and you kind of have to keep that in mind and do that and figure out what works for you. And it also depends on what brand of polymer I'm using, because that makes a huge difference. So then I added another section of acrylic down the tummy, and then using a brush cap, actually is what I'm using here. I use that just to create the little curved lines for the panels in the stomach. So you can use whatever you want. It doesn't have to be that. A silicone tool would work really well. Just kind of look around your stuff that's close by and figure out what would work out and what would create the texture you're looking for. A lot of times when I'm finding things that I want to use, I figure it out in the heat of the moment. I have wet acrylic. I'm like, oh no, I need something that'll make this shape, and I just search what is within arm's reach, and I find something. Is usually, I don't plan ahead always. But then add another layer of black acrylic over the entire dragon's body, except for those tummy panels that you just added. Leave those as they are, just to give him a little bit more thickness, a little bit better, more rounded of a shape. So now, like I said, his head comes way later, and that's what I'm doing now. And same thing, really, with the dragon's head, you can have a lot of freedom with the shapes that you use, but I wanted mine to look a little bit more, I don't know, creepy. I don't think that's exactly the right word, but like he would definitely be fire breathing and scald your head if you got too close. So I have a little horn point on the back, and then some nostrils, and then a nice, really strong, prominent jaw. Just like that. Add a little bit more acrylic. I know it's so hard to see what I'm sculpting when it's all black acrylic, because it just creates this sort of black pit in the video, but I did sculpt around and add a little bit of texture and a little bit of dip for where the eye is, and just some different shapes. Slightly 3D, not overly 3D. Once the head is enough that you can pick it up and set it on the end of the neck, and then if you feel it needs to, you can secure that with more of the clear acrylic on the back. Then with black gel paint or no wipe top coat, it really doesn't matter which one you use as long as they dry tackless. You're going to want to just go over and add some little highlights on the tummy panels, and then some polka dots going over the dragon's body for the little scales. Highlights on the wings as well, so over those 3D lines that we made is where you want to paint that. And I use top coat, but like I said, it doesn't matter what you use as long as it doesn't have a tacky layer. After that's done, use duochrome powder or peacock pigment or something. I went with one that's purple because it went really well with my little peacock pyrite rock, and just burnish over all of that gel that you just painted on there. Remove the extra dust, and you have a very shiny little dragon. Apply a layer of gel sealer over the entire thing. Make sure that when you're doing this, you don't flood all of the 3D art with it. You want those little ridges that you sculpted and made and took so much time on to stay there and not fill in. And that is it. I love this necklace. I think it's I don't know, it's just enough kind of, I don't know, it's not so cutesy like a lot of things. I like things that are a little bit more on the creepy realm. So I hope you guys like it, and don't forget to share recreations with me on Facebook or Instagram. I'd love to see them, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!